Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Storytime Spotlight. For this episode, we have an artist who has released with House of Hustle, Sub 49 Collective, and of course, Storytime Records. All the way from the East Coast, we welcome Level.
Thank you so much, man. It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Of course, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to, sit down and chat with me. Just to dive right in, where did you get the artist name from?
Uh, so pretty funny period of time where I was trying to come up with artist names that were kind of similar to what, like, I was a big gamer guy. I was a huge nerd kind of during my time in high school and then at certain points in college. And I kind of wanted to make a name that was similar to that, but kind of deviating. And I really liked what the trend was going on with, I don't know, like Trist or Trust or Manor. So basically taking the vowel out and being really original and trying to do that with one of my names. And it just never worked out for those names. And then one of my friends knew that I was trying out that kind of idea. And he just told me hey, what about a level, LVVL? And I looked at that and I was just like, that's it. There's no other name I can think of that's so perfect in every other way. It just fits with music. It works and immediately when I saw that too, I was front name or the first two letters LV and then VL on the other side backwards. So the two L's kind of are front side and then back side. I just knew that was going to fit immediately. It was such a good idea.
That was the golden ticket. Absolutely. Yeah. I noticed, with artists, same thing with Trust and the other person that you mentioned as well, they're taking out the vowels and it kind of does give you that edgy sense to your name. So it's definitely a great backstory on what you have on it, playing video games and getting the kind of inspiration from video games and bringing that into your artist name. That's definitely a good flow of transition. So what DAW are you producing on?
I'm an Ableton person. I have tried to work with FL. I started FL in 2019 when I first wanted to produce, and I used just the free version of it, and I just couldn't really get into it. And then Ableton kind of just popped up, and it was just automation so much better on that tool. Workflow was just better. I just went with it, and that's what I've used since I think 2020, middle of 2020. That's when I really started to get into producing. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I definitely am on the Ableton gang as well. You start off on FL. I started off on Logic, and then you kind of just navigate to what's comfortable. And then once you find a groove, I absolutely agree with the automation functions in Ableton are just so much user friendly. So we're gonna put another tally mark on for the people who are on the Ableton squad. So what are some plugins for people to check out? For producers, for people who are trying to get some new flow or creative ideas, what are some plugins that people should check out?
So probably when you're just starting, I probably say this every time, but if you're making EDM, Serum and Pro Q3 are the only two that I think you really need when you're just starting out. One plugin that I did kind of get recently, and it's because I'm trying to get into more granular synthesis because I want to start making more of my own ear candy bits and things like that, was Output's Portal, I think is what it was. Yeah. That one has just a ton of, even if you don't even understand what's going on in the plugin, there's so many presets for everything from drums to vocals to really glitchy stabby sounds. So that's one I've been looking at a lot more in terms of just wanting to resample. So that's been a really good one. But get Serum, get Pro Q3. Honestly, those are really the only two, I think, at least when you're just starting out, that you need.
Absolutely. And of course, you mentioned, even if you don't know how to use the DAW, the greatest thing is at the fingertips on the keyboard, you type in YouTube, Portal tutorial or something like that. It's a nice little run through on how to get things done. So it's a good way. It's a good way to get a little bit your foot more in the door trying to understand these plugins. Because I'm right there with you. Sometimes you open these plugins up, you have no idea what any of these buttons do. For me, that's massive. A lot of people know how to use massive. I'm there's so many knobs and buttons. I just am turning and clicking, and hopefully something cool comes about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you released your most recent track, DIAM'N, on our label. I've been playing it out at all my shows. It goes off every single time. Give us some inspiration about the track itself.
Uh, that's tough because I think this was one of the tracks where I started to use more Max for Live stuff. So for those who don't know, Ableton Suite has kind of like this built-in plugin system. I'm not exactly sure like how to describe it, but Max for Live is basically just plugins that you would use from external developers, but they're all free, most of them, I think at least, and they're also really CPU, not CPU intensive, I guess I could say. So one of these plugins that I used, I think was called Sting 64, if you want to look it up. That's how I kind of made the lead, like the lead line. I actually really kind of want to do a breakdown of that track now that I think about it, because it's so interesting how just one like idea can kind of just take over the rest of the track. Like I probably made that track in 8 hours off of just one idea kind of going through and then refine it obviously over many other sessions. But it's interesting how quickly that happens. But inspiration wise, it was just this one little plugin that gave me a bass line that was really quick and choppy, and the whole thing kind of came with that. And then I probably picked like a lead preset that I just how do you say it? Just put distortion, all that processing on it,
Yeah.
do all that, and boom, you got your track. It was that.
Yeah.
It was that much. Yeah.
I really love the vocal that you put on the track as well. It just gives it
Oh
like this
yeah.
like hip hop-ish like kind of feel. And especially after the first track, the breakdown build up into the second part, it's just like so much energy, and like the bass is just hits perfect. Everything just flows. And
Yeah.
I've noticed when I'm playing out in crowds, it definitely catches the attention, and everyone starts to like
Yeah.
bop around a little bit more into the actual like set itself. So it's definitely a great track to play out live. Super excited that you put it out on the label. So talking about inspiration, where can you find some good inspiration? Like what are some ways to find inspiration?
Probably for me, it's just listening to artists.
Mhm.
So when I think I first started out, my two biggest inspirations were, so those are, I guess, like in 2020,
Mhm.
probably in terms of just house music, it was Chami Mala, that duo, like
Oh
way
geez.
back 2017, 2018.
Oh geez.
Love those guys. They got me into
Absolutely.
DJing, and then it came Chris Lake, Annie Up, Fisher, obviously, when he got really big. So those were the guys that like wanted me to DJ. For producing, it was probably Blue Claire, in all honesty. I think hearing his edits that he had on SoundCloud was probably when I was like, okay, I want to produce. This is insane, the stuff that he's making.
Yep.
And then that's kind of how I came into things like Night Bass. So Taiki was a huge inspiration also, Taiki New Light. And the whole kind of Night Bass crowd was super inspiring for me. So just the music, honestly, is
Mhm.
what, and as well
Totally.
going to all these shows, like seeing all the people like the same music, that's really inspiring to get people to produce. And like, I want to be that guy at the front, be that guy DJing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It gets those creative juices flowing, especially,
exactly.
seeing it live. It gives you like a whole nother like adrenaline rush, because then you kind of see the music that you sit and make in your bedroom, and you're like, wow, like I can imagine this playing to a live crowd and imagining the reaction. And I don't know about you, but when I'm making tunes in my room, I'm like bopping around, like just head banging it out a
Oh
little bit.
yeah,
I get a sick little flow, and I'm like, even it's a little 8-bar loop, I'm like, so fire, repeat, repeat, repeat. And I just like close my eyes,
exactly.
I can see it going off live. So it's definitely a good point.
Yeah,
So would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
definitely I would say pretty introverted,
Mhm.
which I'm definitely okay with. I think for the most part, there's benefits to both introvert and extrovert. But yeah, I'm happy with being an introvert for the most part.
Okay. What's your go-to snack?
You know, if you asked me that like a month ago, it would probably be something really unhealthy like pizza bites, those Tostitos ones, which are not good. So I've tried to transition out. One thing I have been eating is like these Quaker chocolate rice cakes. They're
Ooh,
so good. And they're like every time I go to the grocery store, I kind of run out of them like every 2 weeks now. And
yeah.
those are so good. I would highly recommend for people who like want to eat maybe better snacks, I guess, but also it's so flavorful too. I love chocolate, so it really helps me as well.
Okay. Not
Yeah.
bad, not bad. What are some of your favorite artists you've been listening to right now that others should check out?
Mm. Ooh, my favorite artist right now, other than Blue Claire, of course. I think what's his name, Fikir Myth. How do you say it actually? I think it's Fikir. He's kind of had that similar like 808 bass that Blue Claire kind of has.
Yeah.
But his is so good because essentially like the way he builds his chords, his sound design is really great. The melodies are really good. It's just a really like much more melodic take on what Blue Claire's sound is. And it's a lot more dynamic as well. And so that's something that's been really inspiring to me. And kind of what I've been looking for in like future productions and things like that.
Yeah.
Clank is also one I've been listening to a lot. I had a one-on-one session with that guy once, and his sound design is ridiculous. I mean,
I know.
If you go to Icon Collective, I guess you kind of learn a lot from going there. But my God, and he knows how to produce.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Funny story enough. I opened up for him a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, and then he's coming back to Vegas this Friday. And then so I'm going to go see him again. I just really enjoy with him and his music. It's like this gritty bass sound. It's like almost like a cross line of like something you would hear in dubstep, but like here, like portrays it into like house music itself. And it's like so gritty and juicy and girthy. And you're just like, yes, I need it. I want it. And just keep supplying it to me. And I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. So,
his in rotation. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. His in rotation, what?
His in rotation EP, I thought was really cool because it's a lot like more techy, I guess, in that case. But like his ear candy and his percussion is so metallic and kind of like dubsteppy, almost like you said, that it still kind of keeps that signature sound. I think that was really good. That's one of my favorite EPs to come out of In Rotation quite a while. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been listening to him for a hot minute now, and he put out a mix. I forgot the title of the mix, and I just remember looking up the track list, and it was like every track I like was like an ID by him. And I'm like, damn it. I have to wait for this
stories all the
time. So walk us through a day in the life of your life.
So let's see. I wake up East Coast at 8 a.m. Depending on my schedule, I might have work like from 9 to 1, and then I'll have classes maybe after that. Some days I'll just have one class and no work. That was today. I just had one class today, and then I basically got to do whatever I wanted today, produce, mix. And then other days, like yesterday, I work from 9 to 1, and then I have 2 3-hour classes that I have to go on that ends at 9:30 p.m. So it really does depend, but usually it's working, studying, school, and then whenever I do have time, I'll probably either work on music, try to get to the mix downs of some of the tracks that I've been putting off because I just can't do mixing and I hate it all the time. Or sometimes just, hang out with some friends. That's really it.
Okay. What are you going to school for?
So I'm currently business right now, finance in New York.
Okay. Is this something you do online or in person?
We were online, I think, junior year. I think everyone was, though, for the most part. But senior year, we pretty much opened up completely. Maybe the occasional in-person class if like the teacher's not feeling well or something like that. But we're basically all in person. It's actually surprising for New York, especially. I was surprised.
Okay. There you go. Yeah. So definitely staying busy with business or your artist brand and making tunes or hanging out with friends. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Anyone you would like to give a shout out to, or anything upcoming that you would like to promote?
I'll have a track probably in March, April. I'm still figuring that out. That's probably going to be my next release. I might drop a remix either this month or next month for a really unknown and obscure bass house tune that you may not have heard of called Disco Tool by Blue Claire and Matroda.
Of course.
One that I should have released months ago, but I'll probably try and get that out. That mix has been terrifying for me to figure out. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones. It's one of the only ones I think where I like completely, I have the first drop, and then when it comes to that second drop, it's like a completely different like sound. So that's going to be an interesting one for me. Okay. But yeah, March, April, be on the lookout, I'd say.
Okay, well, I am excited for new music. I just want to say thank you again for taking the time out of your day to sit down and have a conversation with me. Once again, my name is Matt Campbell, and for this episode for the Storytime Spotlight, we have Levels. Follow him in the link in the description below. And thank you again for staying tuned. Once again, Levels, we're out.
Thank you guys.